When you hear the term business analyst, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Meetings? Flowcharts? Well, what if I told you one of their most powerful make or break tools is documentation? I know, it doesn't sound flashy, but get it right, and you're literally building the foundation for a project's success. Get it wrong? Well, that's when things start to fall apart. Fast. So let's get into what makes BA documentation so absolutely essential.
Okay, before we even touch a single document, we have to talk about the pillars that make it all work. And it all starts right here, with rock-solid communication. This isn't just about sending emails. It's about making sure that critical information is flowing freely, constantly, between every single person on the team. No one gets left in the dark. Next up, you've got collaboration. Look, every project team is a mix of different people with their own ideas, their own priorities. A great BA is kind of like a puzzle master. They have to work with everyone to fit all those different pieces together, build a consensus, and get the entire team rowing in the same direction. And here it is, the pillar that ties everything else together, documentation. This is so much more than just taking notes. It's about creating one central, undeniable place where everyone, from the top executive to the newest developer, can go to get a shared understanding of the project. It becomes the team's single source of truth. So when you put these three things together, that constant communication, that deep collaboration, and that crystal clear documentation, you get this powerful combination. We're calling it the winning trifecta. And this isn't just a nice-to-have idea. This is the engine that actually drives a project towards a successful finish.
All right, so where does a business analyst even begin? It all starts with laying the groundwork. Long before a single line of code gets written, a BA uses a very specific set of documents to map out the entire project landscape. Think of it as creating the blueprint. So what's in this foundational toolkit? Well, you've got stuff like a glossary of terms, super important so everyone is speaking the same language. You've got a stakeholder analysis to figure out who's who in the zoo. But one of the most powerful tools for bringing clarity to a team is something called a RACI chart. You've probably been on those projects where nobody really knows who's supposed to do what, right? Total chaos. A RACI chart puts a stop to that. It's a simple grid that defines who is responsible, that's the person actually doing the work. Accountable is the one person whose neck is on the line for it. Consulted are the experts you need to get feedback from, and informed are the people you just need to keep in the loop. This one simple chart can eliminate so much confusion. Okay, the groundwork is laid. Now we get to the real core of the analysis, defining exactly what this project is going to deliver. This is where the BA really has to document the project scope and get into the nitty-gritty of the requirements. Now, if there is one single document that can make or break a project, it's got to be the scope statement. Seriously, think of it as the project's North Star. It clearly defines what success looks like, and just as important, it defines what is out of scope. It's the ultimate boundary setter that keeps everyone focused. Now, to capture all the little bits of functionality, BAs often use a really cool format called a user story. It's a simple but incredibly powerful way to frame a requirement from the perspective of the person who will actually use it. It forces you to think about who wants the feature, what they need to do, and most importantly, why it's valuable to them. As the requirements get more detailed, they tend to split into two different views. Think of it like ordering a coffee. The functional requirement, or FRS, is the what. It's you saying, I want a hot latte with oat milk. It's all about the user's perspective. The system requirement, or SRS, is the how. It's the technical details, the specific espresso machine needed, the exact temperature settings, the brand of oat milk. It's the technical blueprint for the barista. So, with the what clearly defined, the next set of documents we're going to talk about act as a bridge. They're designed to guide the project from that well-defined blueprint into an actual, tangible reality. These are the documents that support the development and testing phases.
This phase is full of really practical, hands-on documents. You've got wireframes, which are basically simple sketches of the user interface, so everyone can see what it's going to look like. You have change request logs to prevent that dreaded scope creep, those little additions that can completely derail a project. And of course, test plans to make sure the final product actually works the way it's supposed to. A gap analysis is a really important one in this phase. It's a document that clearly shows the difference between where we are right now and where we want to be. It essentially creates the to-do list for the development team. It shows them exactly what needs to be built, what needs to be changed, and what needs to be improved.
Okay, so you've done all the hard work. You've created all this fantastic documentation. Now what? Because it's pretty much useless if it just sits in a folder on a shared drive, right? The final, and I mean critical, step is sharing the project story with all the stakeholders in a way they can actually understand and use.
And this leads to a huge question for every BA. With all of this information, how in the world do you present it? There's no single right answer here because everything, and I mean everything, depends on who you're talking to. To figure it out, you have to ask yourself a few key questions. First, who am I talking to? An engineer? An executive? Second, what do they actually need to know to do their job or make a decision? Third, what's the single most important piece of information I need to get across? And finally, are there any constraints, like boring regulatory rules that are going to dictate the format for me? The answers to those questions will point you to the right format. If you need an official, legal sign-off, you're probably going to use formal documentation with a strict company template. If you just need a quick update for the internal team, some informal notes on a wiki page might be perfect. And if you're presenting to the big bosses for a major decision, well, that calls for a slick, high-level visual presentation.
All right, as we start to wrap this up, let's bring it all home. Let's distill everything we've talked about down to the most important takeaway about the role of a business analyst and all of this documentation. Here it is, the main idea. Documentation is not some static task that you just check off a list and forget about. It's a living, breathing tool that evolves right along with the project. From the very first day to launch day, it serves different people in different ways. And ultimately, it's the connective tissue that holds a successful project together. So think of it this way. If your project is a movie, then great documentation is the script. It guides every actor, it sets every scene, and it makes sure everyone is working together to create a blockbuster hit. The only question left is, are you ready to write it?